All right, so before we get started with today's video, I've got a huge giveaway announcement. I'll be giving away one SP Little Knight, and it's the one I actually pulled. Okay, this was a terrible showcasing of SP, but I pulled this one in case you haven't seen my Twitter post and community tab post. I pulled it at our regionals, and I will be giving it away to you guys. So this giveaway is going to last for 2 weeks. So it ends on the 22nd of February, and the way you can enter is you gotta comment something on any of my videos that are going to get posted starting today with this video until the 22nd. I want you to comment, like the video, and also make sure you are subbed to the channel and follow me on Twitter. So these are the 4 things you have to do so you can be entered into the giveaway. So good luck, and I really hope this SP comes in handy to one of you guys. So yes, for this video, what we're going to be talking about, and I'm also really excited about today's video, we're going to be talking about cards to beat Fire Kings. And of course, it's Simple Spoils Fire Kings, but we're also going to be taking a look at interactions, where you should hand trap them, situations you're going to find yourself in, how they might play around your stuff. So we're going to cover all of that to make you as prepared as possible for that inevitable fire matchup. So like the video, of course, if you enjoy it, and to enter into the giveaway, share your thoughts in the comments, and let's go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to cover some hand traps. The first one is going to be Ash. Now, disclaimer, this one is a little awkward because obviously in the next format, Hita, take Ash into Princess is going to be a thing. It's just something you have to live with, and we're still probably going to be running Ash, but you have to keep that in mind. So preferably, you want to use Ash when you have an additional hand trap as well, but if you're trying to stop them in their tracks, the best way to use Ash would be either on Island, because you want to cut them access from their Fire King plays, and also maybe even a better way would be to Ash original Simple Spoils. That's really important because usually for them to get to original Simple Spoils, they would have to go through a multitude of cards actually. Either it's the ability to start pitching a card, setting the original sending something away, or it's gonna be Bonfire into Ash, into Populous, into original, send something away. So every single time they're going to have to go through cards, waste their resources, and then get ashed. This deck, if you haven't looked at it at all, I can safely say it's going to have a ton of extenders. So it's not guaranteed you're going to be able to cut them off from their plays completely every single time, but these 2 points I think would be optimal because you put them on, better have an extender, better have a way to play through that. Another way of utilizing Ash, if it's drawn as your 6th card, would be on the Barong search in standby phase. So yeah, I think that's actually really useful because they're usually going to go for Kirin, which gets them additional plays. It prevents them from sea summoning during your turn, being able to, dodge stuff, and actually cuts them off from quite a lot. So if it's top decked, it's not the end of the world. Just use it on Barong, and I think you should be fine. So that's it when it comes to Ash. And let's move on to another card that cuts access completely. It's going to be Droll, of course. Droll is going to be extremely strong in the next format. For the most part, what they do is search, and you're cutting them off from all of this if you use draw immediately. They might go for Wanted in the draw phase to prevent you from drawing them, but a lot of good players are actually opting to go into the main phase and then do their plays, because if they go Bonfire, Search, you use draw, they can still chain Wanted, and it's pretty much playing around you having knowledge of what their hand is looking like. That's usually why they would do it, because after they get drawed, they would have to have at least one more extender to assemble some kind of board. Again, draw is going to be impactful, but it might not be the greatest card, especially against, the variants which are mostly Snake Eye based, not just Fire King, because they will have a lot of plays to continue going. But with Fire King specifically, they want to go for Ponic Search, Island, and all of that, so it's going to cut them off from a whole lot of extension. So yeah, draw is gonna be nice, and please just use it as soon as possible, but don't use it in the draw phase because you can't. So make sure you don't just throw it to the graveyard and show your opponent that you have it. So yes. Next two hand traps, or I guess three, would be just targeting negation, so Vader Imperm and also Mourner, but for the most part we're going to be focusing on Imperm and also Valor. Obviously the number one thing we have to think about is Kirin. It's able to tag out and it just dodges your negation. But in my opinion, you kind of have to just risk it. Because if you have that negation and you use it on Snake Eye Ash, which would be the correct call in my opinion, you actually prevent a lot because they will not be able to use the second effect of Ash to sack and bring out the Flamebird Dragon. So usually I would do it on Ash, or like almost every single time probably I would do it on Ash, just because you want to stop them as soon as possible, at least in my opinion. Because like if you let them go through their place, whatever, you know, you want to use it on Ponix or Garunix or something, at every single point you're pretty much risking them having Kirin, so it doesn't really matter where you use it. But if you wait until Garunix or something, they already have island access. And at the point of them having that island access, it's going to put you on, you have to OTK them because they're going to have insane follow-up on the following turn. So with targeting negation, keep Kirin in mind, but sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. So just use it on Ash and, you know, just cross your fingers and pray. Another useful point would be the Abilstar if they go for one-it into the Abilstar. Why that is because at that point you're cutting off the access from original Sinful Spoils because you want to prevent them having one-it and original in the graveyard, so they cannot go banish one-it, put original back, draw one. You know, it's getting them pluses. So if you know, or if it seems like they don't have additional plays, you can also use it on the Abilstar. But yeah, using it on Ash is probably the best point of interaction. So yeah, moving on to the next hand trap, Shifter. Shifter is going to be the MVP of the next format if you can run it. So if you play Kashtira, Flunder, Exorcister, even Purley, like just make it into a Shifter deck. You need to prevent graveyard access. All they do pretty much is they utilize graveyard. They special summon from the graveyard, also during your turn. So yes, Shifter is going to be extremely impactful. If you can run it, please do. So yes, moving on to Nibiru. This one is a little awkward actually because they have Arvata, that's the number one thing. Number two, they make Apollousa also. Number three, it's a little weird because you want to use it after they've gone for Flamberge Revive and also Princess Revive. If you don't, and you use it while they have Flamberge on the field, because in some instances, they will not get it off of the field, especially if their hand is not perfect, because they want to keep it on the field to bring back IP as well. So if they have not used it yet and you tribute it off with Nibiru, they're just going to get 2 bodies back. So you're not in a good spot. And also with Princess, you want to make them waste their revive. And if you use Nibiru, when they've already used everything and they have Princess on the board, you're not afraid of Apollousa because they're fire locked while Princess is on the field. So you want to use it then, but then you also need to keep in mind that, you know, Princess is now in the graveyard. So if they also added back with Sunlight Wolf beforehand, they have either Garunix or Kirin or whatever to summon to the field during your turn. So they're gonna make their Princess live. You can see already that Nibiru is not ideal because usually they will have plays through it. You know, they just, at the end of the day, need 1 fire to make their effects live again. So Nibiru is okay, but not the greatest, in my opinion. So yes. Moving on to Didi Crow. This one is not terrible, but it's only 1 banish. And it's kind of weird. So there's 2 situations. One is they go for like the full board, and 1 Didi Crow is probably not gonna do enough because you would really have to weigh your options. You either use it on Garunix, Princess, you know, like randomly during the combo to prevent them from reviving with Kirin and popping a card, or reviving with Arvata and, you know, continuing with their plays. Or in the other situation, you hand shove them enough where 1 Didi Crow is actually going to be really impactful. So I think if you use it, you would have to pair it together, definitely. You can also use it on Barong if you want, but usually I would rely on, like, I would draw a card and make sure it's not Ash. Because if I top deck Ash, like we talked about before, you have to Ash the Barong because it's the most useful point. So I wouldn't preemptively use Didi Crow. It's also not bad on Ponix, but it's like, again, if you're pairing things together, if you see they have a really subpar board, then DD Crow is going to be nice because it's going to prevent them from follow-up. So yeah, if you already cited because of like, I don't know, Pearly Labyrinth or something like that, then sure, if it fits your citing patterns. But I don't think it's that insane, again, because it's only one banish. So it's going to be up to you. You have to decide. And yes, moving on to Ghost Bell. This one is, again, okay, because you're citing it already. You have Labyrinth and Voiceless Voice. And it's going to be really good against both of these decks, or just, I guess, a little awkward against Labyrinth because of rollback. But still, you have it in your side deck. So if it fits your patterns, okay. But it's not the best one or the most impactful one, I would say. There are applications though. So Kirin Revive, Arvata Revive, Princess Revive, Flambirch Revive, Circle of the Fire Kings is also an option to be used against it. But yeah, like I guess if you use it to counter some cards already, like some fire decks might play Bow to counter Soul Release. So if you already use it, you might utilize it in the mirror match as well, but that's really going to depend on your personal preference. We talked about Soul Release, we're going to mention it in the video, but not right now. We still have another card we have to talk about when it comes to hand jabs, and it's Phantasme. In my opinion, Phantasme is kind of nice, actually. It's going to draw into your hand traps. It's, of course, going to be live, because naturally they're going to link summon. It's also okay against, not just okay, it's really nice against SP, because you can beat over it, or at least force some interruptions they have, so they prevent you from beating over it, which you can also negate them with the built-in effect of Phantasme. So it's nice against all of these cards. The only downside is pitching a card. So if you run it in a deck where you don't really care about pitching cards, or you even benefit off of those cards being in the graveyard, then it's going to be really nice. But it's like, you really have to decide for yourself, in my opinion. Not terrible, not the greatest, because it makes you pitch a card and it's probably not going to go through to actually beat over something because they have too many interruptions to effectively pop your Phantasme. So now we can move on to Soul Release. I think this one is one of those cards where it's going to be really nice, especially at the beginning of the format when people are a little unfamiliar with how to play around it, and sort of like if it's even going to be played in the meta or not. It's going to have a bit of a surprise factor attached to it. But the second people really actively start to play around it, I think it's going to, you know, kind of go out of favor. So it's not bad, but the issue with it is that if you already have a lot of hand traps and you stop them, they're not gonna like do the full combo, and there's not going to be enough impact with you using Soul Release because you're not going to be banishing anything. Like it might be one card you're banishing, and at that point you would rather have another card to deal with their board, or like an extender for your plays, or like a starter or something. So I think Soul Release is fine. But yeah, when they start to play around it, it's not going to be as insane. Number one, they're gonna try to have some resources in the hand as well, which would be either Garunix or Kirin or something, so it doesn't hurt them to lose fires from the graveyard. Especially if Garunix is played at 1, then you want to add it back to your hand to protect it. And number 2, there's Lancia and Ghostbow to think about, so that also makes Soul Release a little mid, but we'll see what happens. So there's ups and downs when it comes to this card, but it's like that with a lot of cards, actually. You know, it's gonna depend on personal preference, on the actual deck that you run, and all of that. So yeah, let's move on to another card, which also has similar issues, I guess we could say, or like dependencies on the deck that you run, which is Super Polymerization. So there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this card. So in my opinion, if you run it, you probably have to play it in a deck where you're going to be able to fuse off your monsters as well. So like a Branded strategy or something like that, or like a Fire strategy where, you know, you're like, I don't know, playing Rescue Ace. You might want to run Super Polymerization because it's going to be useful to dodge stuff and get your monsters off of the field while fusing their stuff. Because Fire Kings are trying at least to establish boards that play around Super Polymerization. Some of them are going for Apollousa plus a disruption, so it doesn't work in that situation. They might also go for like if Super Polymerization is live and they go for Flamberge and Ambloeo, it's not going to be insane because you make Mud Dragon, you get everything off of the field, but Flamberge triggers, bring stuff back. So some of their stuff is still live to at least have a lot of follow-up, but Mud Dragon is preventing quite a ton actually, because it's preventing targeting since you can call fire. So that makes Mud Dragon insane. However, Kirin doesn't target and it can just get rid of Mud Dragon and then everything else is live again. So that's something to think about. But other than that, like, if they're not playing around it, if they are not careful, and if you also play Super Polymerization, maybe going first, especially like in game 1, you know, if you have it and you set it, you might be able to cut them off from a lot of plays actually. So it's gonna depend, but yeah, I guess another thing is going to be like, you're not just getting rid of monsters on the field if you use it on Flamberge and another fire, because you would have to go priority in the draw phase, and you're also preventing Flamberge from bringing out IP because they're going to want to use it as soon as possible, usually in your draw phase or standby phase, so IP is already live during the main phase. So you're definitely preventing that, but you would have to call priorities. And I guess also them having IP or SP or something, it's not bad because you can just run over it with Mud Dragon. But yeah, like, you can see there's good things and bad things about Super Polymerization. You would really have to decide for yourself. But let's talk about the next card. Now this one is definitely very deck dependent. It's going to be Gravekeeper's Inscription. In my opinion, it is busted, but you're not gonna find a lot of decks that can actually run this card. So of course we're focusing on the effect where it, you know, prevents effects in the graveyard, and it's insane because it actually lasts for 2 turns. A deck where this could be really useful in, if you want, but it is unsearchable, is Voiceless Voice. So if you're trying to really counter the fire meta, I would look into playing Gravekeeper's Inscription, and especially a deck that can actually run it. Let's talk about Thrust into Talents. And you know, I don't think it's terrible actually. Like, Thrust is gonna be live again. They're trying to go Flamberge, bring out IP. You're also gonna bait things because they're gonna wanna Appaloosa negate, and of course they're playing during your turn. What, you know, all they're doing is they're playing during your turn. So both of these cards are going to be live, but Thrust is best in decks where you actually have good in-engine targets, like Branded is the prime example of that. And if you're using just talents, I don't think it's terrible, but again, they only need 1 fire for their plays. So if you take 1 of the fires, it's probably not going to do enough. They have Garunix in hand, Kirin in hand probably or something, and they're just going to make all of their plays live again. What you can do is you can steal Appaloosa, so it's going to be much tougher for them to compete against that because they would have to chain block and really, I guess, adjust their plays to you having Appaloosa. So the effect to take is not bad, and it's going to force interruptions, but a little downside is the fact that you would have to waste your resources to bait their stuff. They're not just gonna go ahead and activate something because your talents is not gonna be live if they go Flamberge, bring out IP in the standby phase. You know, you shouldn't mix Thrust and talents, like mix them up. So talents is not going to be live immediately, so you would have to waste your cards, and it's not good to waste your cards against Fire Kings because they're going to have so, like, their follow-up is gonna be so insane that you don't wanna risk wasting any cards against them, because if you can't end them on your turn, they're probably ending you on theirs. So think about that. Now, I want to talk about Cosmic Cyclone as well. There's different back row removal out there, but you need to keep in mind that mass back row removal, like Harpies or Lightning Storm, is not going to do the job because Sanctuary can always protect. It's not one of those interactions where, like, you know, if you mass remove something that would protect another card, everything gets destroyed. It doesn't work that way because Sanctuary doesn't actually need itself to protect. It just needs to, like, destroy a fire that doesn't need to be there. So yeah, Island is going to get protected and you're not going to do enough. So in my opinion, Cosmic Cyclone is much, much better because you can actually utilize it going first as well if you don't have like insane cards in that matchup, or going second to deal with Island because it's going to destroy their entire field. So you're going to get rid of interruptions like IP or SP or Appaloosa, and also against Sanctuary if they're trying to quick exceed during your turn. So yeah, I wouldn't call it terrible. Like, you can try it out and pair it with other things and see how it works out. Now let's talk about some going first cards. Probably one of the MVPs would be DDG. So again, you're trying to prevent access from like to the graveyard. So make everything get banished, and that's of course applicable for Labyrinth or like, I don't know, a deck that plays Trust maybe as like a going first target if you want. But yes, DDG is going to be really nice. What I also saw in the OCG, like happening in the OCG, is people use Solemn Strike, because if you strike Ash, you actually get it off of the field and they cannot access its second effect. So yeah, that's actually really nice because Valor and Impermanence work that way, but they can be dodged with Kirin, and obviously Strike is a counter trap, so that's amazing. So yeah, I think Strike is low-key kind of nice against that deck. And I guess an option that's neither first nor second, but it works in both situations, is D-Fissure. Now this one is actually kind of crazy, because if you go second and they feel really good about themselves, you make it to the main phase, slap that D-Fissure onto the field, they're gonna sweat. Like, it's gonna be really tough to compete with that, because immediately their entire graveyard is like turned off. Like, sure, you have some interruptions, but then for a fact, everything is going to get banished. So it's not ideal, especially because it can be played in Kashtira, which is like a nice deck actually. So I would look into that if you want. And then there's also some cards that I felt like I have to mention, but I don't think they're realistically going to see a lot of play just because they're not that useful against anything else. And they take up space and they do the same as like other cards. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's Soul Drain and Silent Graveyard and Macrocosmos. So they're really similar to Shifter, DDG, Fissure, all of that. But if your deck can already run those cards, you're probably running those over these, because these are just not that great. Like, Silent Graveyard has to pitch a card and it's only for one turn. Macrocosmos is a trap. Soul Drain, obviously an unsearchable floodgate. Like, they're a little more easy to deal with and not that insane. So they're there if you feel like playing them, but at that point, you know, just run Shifter or something. So yes, I think that's it. I try to cover as many cards as possible, so if there's something that I maybe missed, which hopefully I didn't, but if by some chance there is, let me know in the comments, of course. Make sure to enter into the giveaway, and yes, like the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know if you will want me to make more of these how to beat with videos, because we're moving into a format with obviously Snake Eyes, Voiceless Voice, a lot of these decks that are sort of changed post Phantom Nightmare, like Labyrinth and stuff. So if you want to see anything of the sort, let me know. I would love to make that type of content. So yeah, again, like the video, comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.